So, hello everyone, and welcome to our holiday posting lunch and learn. I'm Taylor Gaffney, Director of Customer Experience here at Denim Social, and I'm going to be facilitating today's call along with Kylie Pankey from the Customer Success team and Megan Blair, our VP of Marketing. So, we all know 2020 has absolutely flown by, and we are just about to enter the craziness that is the holiday season. So we've got Marquise and Scott on today to talk about how you can prepare your social channels for the holiday. And they've got some fun ideas for engagement too. So just a quick introduction. Marquise is our product marketing manager here at Denim Social. He comes with over 10 years of experience in digital marketing. He specializes in content, storytelling, and digital experience. So awesome stuff from Marquise to share with you today. And then Scott, a familiar face, he's the CEO at UpContent, a content curation platform that is leveraged by marketing and communication teams to curate trustworthy and expert articles to increase engagement. Before Scott was at UpContent, he ran a marketing agency. He's spent some time in private equity. He's spent over 5 years in consulting. So he has a wealth of knowledge to share with us today as well. So I think you guys can take it away here and get started.
Awesome. Thank you, Taylor. I hope everyone's well. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. Scott, how's your day going today?
So far, so good. Turning the page every day, it feels like. November's right around the corner. So thanks for having me. Excited to have this conversation together.
Yeah, honestly, like I can't believe we're coming up on the holidays and like Thanksgiving and just everything. Like it's wild. Time went by crazy fast for sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, let's go on and get started. So if you guys have joined us on some of our previous webinars, this one will be a little bit different because we're gonna kind of take a conversational approach here. So we do encourage questions and whatnot while Scott and I are kind of having this discussion. So if you do have a question, feel free to pop it in the chat and we'll be sure to address it. So first up, when it comes to, really kind of creating a high level, campaign and whatnot, we really want to take a look what it means to be meaningful in that sense. And, from my experience, and Scott, I'm sure you've seen the same as well, is that you should really focus on being proactive and, wanting to adapt to what you're seeing on social media. You want to make sure that, you create conversation. And, are there like any wider social kind of causes that you want to support? And also like, you just want to make sure that you remember that holiday campaigns, they don't have to purely revolve around selling because people have been sold to all year. And sometimes they just look for, kind of a lighthearted messaging or just things that give them opportunity to engage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on a couple key areas there. Conversations are always the goal on social, at least, I'd say 85–90% of the time. You're not going to necessarily get someone to move their account or complete that app just right from a social post that you've created, but it's
right.
The start a really good conversation. And I think this becomes a really difficult time for us who may have been very disciplined throughout the rest of the year about treating our channels in that way of relationship driven. But we've all got goals that we need to reach. Holidays are right around the corner. Like you said, trying to ensure that we continue to reflect and don't get overly aggressive and then degrade that quality and that authenticity that we've been showing throughout the rest of the year. And the holidays create a great time of year to actually overemphasize some of the authenticity and the humanizing of yourself or your brand.
Yeah, like, I mean, being authentic is something a lot of brands should always do when they're on social media anyway, because a lot of times they'll be able to see right through it. You can see right through it if you're having a conversation with someone in person. And, on social media, these people, they took time to follow you. So if they realize that, you're not being authentic or if you're coming off as, just disingenuous, they'll see right through it. And then in turn, you'll end up losing, that person as a follower or, that person just being part of your community as well. So you hit the nail on the head with that one. It's also important to just make sure you have fun. Like social media, oftentimes you can get really consumed with it. And, with the holidays, especially when, you are trying to do social selling or building your personal brand, you almost feel like it's a burden in a sense, and you're not necessarily having fun with it. And in turn, you either completely miss the mark on the content that you should be sharing and posting, or it just doesn't come across as, something that people really want to engage with. So you definitely want to make sure that you do have fun with it. And, it's an opportunity to, test different content, when it comes to things that are relevant to the holidays and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think you touched on not having fun. I think you can have fun on all channels, but I think especially if you're supporting your team in their personal channels, on the UpContent side, I'm supporting the management of our company channel as well as individual channels. And it's so much more fun to be able to post things and try things on the individual side because we're people, right? And we don't need to treat those individual profiles, while always being professional, we don't need to treat them as just another version of your company's profile.
Right. That's definitely true. When you kind of look at the messaging with the holidays, I found that, a lot of times people, they may be a bit nervous, say things like, Merry Christmas, or, whatever holiday that you align with specifically. So one thing that it is important is to, just kind of include a sentiment that's good for everyone, things like happy holidays or season's greetings. That also gives you the opportunity to highlight that, you're aware that there are different holidays that people celebrate. And it's just a true conversation that, that needs to be had. And, not everyone's going to align with the holiday that you have. And you're going to have customers that, come from different backgrounds and diverse backgrounds and whatnot. So from my experience, it is really important to make sure that, you're kind of giving a blanketed statement here. Sometimes that may kind of be the wrong messaging when it comes to social media, but in the case of the holidays, I think that is a pretty valid point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on authenticity pops up again here. But I think when we were talking behind this beforehand here, just the act of being thankful, right? That encompasses all holidays as well. And using that time to just, reach out to individual customers or just be thankful in an authentic way, where it doesn't feel like you found this on some Google search that this was what you're supposed to say today and pasted that on LinkedIn.
And like, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, Scott, like even just on your own personal channels, but when you follow a brand and, let's say, for instance, if it's a brand that you really support, like, you're really all about this brand, and, if they post something where, it's just like a thank you, to our customers or whatever, and then you go in there and you comment or you say something back and then they respond to you, it does feel good. So I think when it comes to, being authentic, in your social messaging and responding to people, it goes a long way. Like responding to people, if a brand is thanking you and, they're showing gratitude, it does go a long way to you as the user, of that, or the follower of that brand.
Yeah, you touched on the responding, and I think that's we talked about conversations a couple slides ago, that being able to make sure that you have some time to respond is really what endears that person to you, if you're sharing and just commenting as an individual, or certainly if you're managing your company accounts, responding as that brand. It's just a little nod right in their direction, and it makes everyone feel good, and it makes those people who may not even want to comment still feel good about the brand because they saw that you commented to somebody else who responded, and that really endears other individuals beyond just that single person to what your organization's about.
Yeah, and like you'll see, some for let's take a bank for example. They're a smaller branch. They're oftentimes communicating with the people that they do, business with. These people, they see your personal finances and whatnot. So coming across as authentic and, kind of just acknowledging, who they are as a person, because these people, it'll work wonders for you. And, they're your customers. So they'll understand, like, not only, do they care about, whether if it's my financial well-being, again, I'm using a bank in an example here, but whether if it's my financial well-being or whatever, they also care about just some of the things that I value, as a person. And it kind of just helps add on that additional layer when it comes to, your social media presence and how you're engaging with, your customers and whatnot on there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, let's look at content shared across Instagram and Facebook. So I know sometimes, like the line can kind of be blurred here when it comes to the type of content that you should share, specifically, for the holidays and whatnot. But for Instagram, like some of the things that would work really well, are hashtags. The hashtags are a great use case for just discovery and whatnot on Instagram. And it also gives you opportunity to align with, specific initiatives or causes or, trends. A lot of times around the holidays, we'll see a ton of different trends pop up on social media that tend to go viral. And as a brand, you do have the opportunity to take part in those if you feel that they align, with what you're doing or, with your brand or your organization in general. And you also want to make sure that you're leveraging aesthetically pleasing images and video, because Instagram is a heavily focused video and image platform. So you just want to make sure that what you are posting on there, it looks good, it complements your brand. And it also stands out. It's content that stands out as well. So whether if it's Christmas stuff and, if you're posting a picture of an elf, or if, it's whatever it may be, like you just want to make sure that it looks good on social media, specifically Instagram. Also, another thing are location tags. You'll sometimes see a lot of people using these, but in my opinion, it gives kind of the allure that to the, let's say, for instance, if I was the follower of that brand, it's like, oh, I've been to that location before. Even if you're eating at a restaurant in a specific location, if it's before the holidays start and, it's in your community, posting that on, your page with the location hashtag can go a really long way. It just, again, helps out that layer of personalization and humanizing your brand. And also, we don't want to forget about stories on Instagram as well. It just gives you opportunity to stay top of mind for your followers, and also kind of generate just quick content, be it if you're working, on more longer form content on Instagram. And yeah, Scott, do you have any other notes when it comes to Instagram or, kind of posting suggestions before we go to Facebook?
I think you touched on some of the important pieces, and I know that, you talked about them. The things that stood out to me are the alignment piece, right? So kind of looking at those trends and things that are going on. We know that holidays are going to be a larger thematic area on all of these platforms, including Instagram. But how does that align with the organization, and looking for things that are already happening, not necessarily trying too hard. We've all seen those brands that it doesn't feel like them. It doesn't feel right, that they would have posted that or done that, or it looks a little bit too generic. Unfortunately, for many organizations, we're still not back to the office parties, so we can't necessarily use that content.
That's true.
But we've seen a lot of great things in the past, just when gatherings are occurring, or even I saw a few posts the other day for organizations of they had a big virtual call and everyone wore a costume, or here's a picture of our individual in AP's pet and wearing a costume. Getting those things out as well not only helps to showcase the human side, kind of a bit of behind the scenes look into what your organization is and all about, but it also endears that individual who's one of the key members to the organization, because they're not getting that recognition. Who doesn't want to see their dog dressed like a bee sitting on their company Instagram account, right? That's great.
Yeah. If all else fails, just post pictures of animals.
Send out a message today, Slack or email or whatever. Hey, can you send pictures of your dogs or pets in costumes or sitting around the Thanksgiving table? Any of that stuff that helps to kind of look a bit behind the scenes. And this is especially true for many of the organizations that I think you and I work with, who their individual product or service, isn't the most Instagram worthy thing. Right? It's very hard to take a picture of that loan application and wow, I can't wait to engage with that on Instagram. But it's everything that happens behind the scenes. Who's creating that? Who's helping to find the right terms for that person? Who are these people that I would be working with? If I can feel more comfortable with them, it allows me obviously to feel more comfortable sharing pretty critical financial decisions and trusting that I'm working with the right group to do it. So I think something often gets left aside because it's, that's not for our type of a tool or our type of service, but you can make a lot of traction, externally, but most importantly, internally. Get your team excited that they're seeing that, and it becomes almost this team culture tool for everyone.
Yeah, and you spoke to kind of like the history that we've seen on social media, stuff in the past, and a lot of time experience can be your greatest teacher. Looking at what has been done previously on social media in past years, it can definitely help inform, kind of your strategy for Instagram when you go forward. And also too, user generated content, for instance, which we'll touch on a little bit later, but really asking, people, oh, send in pictures of, your dog in a costume, or, even if it's a baby in a costume. People love pets and babies. Like, you can't go wrong with that. And it's a really good way to engage your community. And because of the industry that we do work in and the type of businesses we work with, there even still can be really good opportunities for you to post things that align with what you do. For instance, if you're in mortgage and you have a client who closes on a home prior to the holidays, ask if you can share that on social media. I had recently purchased a house with my wife, and our agent, he had asked, if he could share that on his social media channel. And it not only helps validate, his credibility as an agent, but also it's just content there as well. And it shows that level of personalization that he has with his client. So that you hit the nail on the head with that one as well. That was awesome. Looking at Facebook now. So with Facebook being a bit of a different platform, a lot of things that I see that work on Facebook are like image contests, surveys and polls. People love surveys and polls on Instagram. You can ask things like, your favorite holiday dish, or, the worst costume that worn as a kid, as well as also things like clickable links, on Facebook. So be it if you do have a specific page, on your website, because Instagram doesn't allow you to place the URL in the copy of the post, this is where you can leverage that on LinkedIn. Not LinkedIn, Facebook. And then also resharing content, such as, videos, holiday videos, or, horror movie clips, whatever. And again, we're just covering the rest of all the holidays within, this last quarter of the year. And also something else that I wanted to touch on that, in my opinion, sometimes a lot of people overlook, are changing their Facebook cover photo to something relevant, be it to the season, or if you have something going on. So this isn't only tied to the holidays, but think of your Facebook cover photo almost as like a free billboard in a sense. So when people are going to your page, they're seeing this update, they're seeing this really big message, at the top of your page. That's the first thing that they're being hit with. So if you want to change that to something around that's holiday themed, whether if it's just, lights or trees or snow, whatever it may be, leveraging your Facebook cover photo, I think, is a really good way to just kind of keep, fresh content going for people who are interacting with, your page. And people will share it. If it's really good, people will share it, and then it'll just help drive additional awareness to your page.
Yeah, awesome. And congratulations on the house, by the way. I didn't know that. That's
thank you. Thank you.
Very cool. And I think you're right. A lot of those Instagram threads kind of move into Facebook, but the mediums may slightly change into how you're presenting some of those concepts.
Right.
I love the cover photo idea. I think one of the things that we've seen, particularly on Facebook, but now, as you talked about, historically, it was always, well, that's only for Facebook, or that's only for LinkedIn, or only for a social channel. Mm-hmm. All of those lines seem to be blurring. Facebook still feels like the best place to show more of the lifestyle perspective. Not that, and we can probably talk about that in a future conversation. LinkedIn is also a good place now, probably more than ever, to show some of those lifestyle pieces.
Yeah.
But this can be the, we asked the group what their favorite recipes were for the upcoming holidays. Like, what does your family make? And then finding that recipe that's posted on some site and posting that and having those conversations then happen. And certainly, as you mentioned, the mortgage example, if that's the focus of your organization, there's a great tie-in, right, between recipes and the home and people being happy and coming together. And that's kind of the why do we exist element, which I think Facebook can help showcase really well. Mm-hmm. And then the other element that we've seen work really well for Facebook or other networks that are less strictly image heavy is listening to what your prospects and clients are calling in about. What's top of mind for them right now? Obviously, they're juggling the holidays and finances and big purchases or changes in life events, and being able to kind of share that information as well, so that individuals feel like they're getting answers. And those answers can be original content that you've written, or it can be finding an article that somebody else wrote that you agree with, mm-hmm. and want to share that snackable perspective in. So keeping that blend, keeping that mix. But I think, to your point, it's certainly not 100% sales content all the time, and being that robot that's just, the rate has changed, the rate has changed, the rate has changed. And that's all I'm seeing on there. But what are the things that those individuals are asking questions about? What are the articles or items or knowledge bits that you would like that prospect who's calling next to have already read or known before they called you. And it's not just about your service, but it's also about who you are as an organization and maybe even who they're talking to as an individual. And I think Facebook's a great place to help address all of those areas.
Yeah, and one platform that we didn't touch that's not added to this slide, but I did want to bring up was LinkedIn. So while LinkedIn, that is more your professional community, I have seen, and this may be more applicable to last year, especially with the way last year was for everyone, but a lot of people take that as an opportunity specifically for the end of the year as a time to post about reflection, be it on their career or their personal life or, whatever it may be. And, whether if it's they're sharing carousel of photos, that they've just had over the year. And, some conferences have opened back up for people this year. So, just kind of sharing those things and the journey that we've all taken, within the past 2-3 years professionally as well, because so many of us have seen a lot of different changes. Don't forget about, your LinkedIn community as well. And, kind of just being a bit more vulnerable and transparent there, because of messaging like that, especially now, resonates with a lot of people. And you're likely not alone in that boat for sure.
Totally agree with that. And you mentioned early on, a few slides back, aligning with causes as well, that either you personally care about or a cause that your organization is supporting. Being able to showcase that year round is great. Particularly the holidays are a great time to show that gratitude, give thanks to individuals. And yeah, like you said, really, and I think we all just do this naturally. And so it's nice to find a connection with someone else who's doing that as well. Just thinking about, like you said, what the last year has been, and talking about that. And it doesn't need to really have any specific call to action, but the goal of those are to start those conversations and build those relationships so that when you do have that post that has a action or promotional type context to it, that those eyes of that reader are coming to it, knowing all of the context of the other posts and who they're getting this from and what you're all about, so that ask makes a lot more sense to them.
Yeah, definitely. And so there are specific differences that you'll have to look at when it comes to Instagram and Facebook, but there are things that you want to make sure that you're doing on both platforms. And that's making sure that you're engaging with customers, responding to comments, liking comments, and encouraging conversation. Even if you're replying with just a simple emoji, something like that goes a long way, which we had talked about earlier. And also posting fatigue it's very real. And you want to make sure that you're not, just bombarding people with, a ton of posts, about the holidays or whatever it may be. You want to make sure that you're planning it out. So utilize, tools at your disposal, such as, a calendar tool, and, make sure that you're just spacing content in a way that it doesn't provide a ton of gaps in, your messaging and whatnot, but you're also not, posting every 3 hours or every 2 hours, something like that, because you will kill your engagement, you'll lose your audience, and it's just not a really good plan. And then lastly, it's just a variety in the content types. You want to make sure that you're using videos and images or, GIFs if it's on Twitter. Just want to make sure that you're using everything that you do have at your disposal. Because again, there will be something there that resonates with someone and it could spark a conversation and allow you to just really move forward with your engagement. Right. So looking at, some of the post do's and don'ts, it kind of goes, there are some things that, we are aware of what you should do on social media and things that you shouldn't do. But kind of looking at what you should do on social media, and this is applicable across all platforms, but you want to make sure that you're mixing up, your caption length. I can't count the number of times, you'll see a really good image and you want to engage with it. And, you'll go through the post, the caption, and it's just extremely long. And then, you end up losing, the reader and what have you. So you want to make sure you're mixing it up. You don't want all your posts to be like these long, drawn out, copy links and whatnot, because that's just a really good way to lose someone. Scott, you got anything you want to add to that piece?
I think the biggest thing that stands out when I look at the slide is the less stressful holiday experience. That's what we're all after. So I think taking that into your posting cadence and frequency and just sitting back in your chair a little bit. And I think this gives you some of that aerial coverage to try some of those new and different things that Marquise is talking about, because you have that holiday cover, if you will. And maybe it just makes you feel better about being a bit more open. And then you'll see some of those benefits and then hopefully be able to carry those through until 2022 as well. I think the biggest thing that you mentioned is, do what makes sense for you, and understand what's happening around you, right? So if it's Christmas Eve, you're probably not the only person posting something related to that concept. So
exactly,
try to find other ways or other days to address it. That whole gratitude area. We've seen a lot of success of people focusing more around the Thanksgiving timetable, right? Versus the end of year timetable, because there's a little bit less noise there. People are still somewhat in work mode, and then they're a little bit quieter later into the year, and then they come back in January and kind of re-blossom and focus in on 2022. So do what makes sense to you. Don't just kind of keep up with the Joneses and say, well, we need, all of these different images, and we're just going to go find some stock images and post them. Because yes, you've addressed that there are holidays, but did you address it in the way that your brand really would be expected to?
Yeah. And that's also something that you spoke to, is like, just making sure that you use compelling imagery. And, again, you don't kind of want to be a cookie cutter type brand. You can, take images at your location, of your workplace, and just make it more personal. There are a ton of ways to make it more personal than you think. So just be sure to be aware of some of those, visual cues that you'll see just in your everyday life, that you can think, that might make for a really good post. Or, I can build off of that. I can utilize that content in some way, shape, or form. Another one is just making sure that you're keeping, the social in social media. You don't want to be so closed off where you're not, inviting conversation to your social media channels. A lot of people are going to be on social media during the holidays, and you want to make sure that you're getting as much engagement as possible. So the more that you're inviting people to be social with you, and the more that you're being social back, it'll just work in your favor in the long run. Again, we have touched on this previously, but you want to make sure that you're posting regularly, but don't overpost. And then you want to make sure that you're using the right content on the right platform. For instance, don't post, long form video to Twitter when that's mainly, a platform for, quick conversation. So, just be aware of the platforms that you are posting on. And another thing is check your messages, because a lot of times, brands will get bombarded with a lot of messages, and, they won't check them until after the new year, because these next couple of months are going to go by really fast. So, your DMs are going to start to stack up, and if you miss those, then you may miss opportunity for it to close on a new customer, or just opportunity to engage with someone and, start to bring them into your, your marketing funnel. So be aware of, your messages and whatnot, because that is kind of an extension of your social platforms that sometimes can be often overlooked. And also you want to just be, uplifting and very heartfelt and add value. Even if it's something as small as a smile to someone's day. They're going to be bombarded with a ton of messages on social media. So adding, value is something that you do want to do. And then kind of looking at some things you don't want to do is you want to make sure, and Sky had touched on this, is you don't want to veer off on your brand. You want to make sure that you're doing things that are aligned, with who you are, if it's your personal brand or if you're representing your organization. You don't want to veer off of that. And, you're still going to get, questions and comments that aren't related to a specific post. So you want to make sure that you are answering them. You don't want to ignore them, because sometimes people may realize that that's an opportunity to speak to you about something that they may have a question about. So, you can direct them in a different area, but you want to make sure that you don't lose them. And then next, you just want to make sure, that yes, while hashtags are great, you don't want to overdo them. And Scott, I'm sure you can attest to this, but you'll see, either if it's a really long post or you'll see like a hashtag cloud. And it's specifically on Instagram, because Twitter has character limits. So, on Instagram, you'll see a ton of hashtags, and then you just get lost and you don't even know where to click. I'm sure you've seen that as well, Scott.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think this ties into overall is kind of trying to understand what you're going after, what your goals are, right? So people do that, just like there's a reason people are filling those up, as you know, and it's to try to get visibility on each of those hashtags for people who are looking for those certain things.
Right.
And that may still get your, hey, look how many people saw this post. But if you're not allowing those who actually want to engage and you're not giving them the easy path to take that next step, you're just getting all those impressions. So really focusing in on whom you want to be talking to and trying to cater that messaging directly to them, and really focus on the throughput of your social media presence versus just how many people you can get to see that brand, and then not measuring anything that happens after that.
Definitely. And yeah, lastly, I just want to make sure that you're not afraid of trolls, because you're going to get trolls on social media and they're going to troll your posts and whatnot. So just delete them and move on. That's the kind of the last point I wanted to bring on that, because you're definitely going to get trolls. Kind of moving on to the advertising piece. So advertising is still important, during the holidays on social media. And for instance, spend is, if you're in mortgage, the spend is up during holidays. And the market, it will switch from the refinance market to a purchasing market, especially with today's world. So you want to make sure that you're just capitalizing on some of that opportunity. You'll be competing with a lot of social noise, which oftentimes can make people who follow you on social media very nervous. So you want to make sure that you're using that as a chance to stand out and add some levity to your posts as well. And you also just want to make sure that you're using ads that show, and Scott had touched on this, but using ads that show what your organization believes in, and what you kind of stand by. That's kind of the, I guess not the one size fits all, but kind of my advice when it comes to advertising on social media, because it's not something in your strategy that you want to completely abandon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is kind of the finest point on this whole transition from, get that business this year to start building the foundation for next year. And as you mentioned, regardless of what you're advertising against, those CPCs are going to go up just because of the nature of the season. So everyone just being ready for that. And then because of that, really thinking about, okay, what is the mindset of those individuals who are seeing this ad? We all get burnt out during the holidays. We can all only spend so much time with our families. And so we're going to go onto that phone. We're going to start scrolling through. Maybe I do have a little bit more time now than I had in September or October to actually engage with that ad, or maybe complete that interest form that comes after that ad.
Right.
But I don't want to get, probably in most cases, 8 phone calls within the next 10 minutes on Christmas Eve because I filled out that form. So thinking about that process as well. And how am I utilizing this to then maybe retarget them later, or bringing this to the forefront of their minds to get them to be thinking about what decisions they want to make next year, and being there for them then when they're ready to make those decisions. So I think this is in the advertising side, a great way to think about. Historically, right, it was like, oh, well, let's just tap things down toward the end of the year because we're not there and no one wants to do business. But where we've seen a lot of value is that that's actually when people have some time to explore options. And so being there to help them explore those options makes you the organization or the individual of choice when they're ready to act.
Definitely. So yeah, we can move on, Taylor. And then I kind of just wanted to touch on some stats to really kind of bring home everything when it comes to content marketing, and kind of just take a look at how marketers are viewing content marketing, and some of the stats around them. So like 80% of marketers are investing in content, whether if it's to product promotions, and only 20%, or sorry, just over 20% are investing in branded storytelling. So I think it's important to find a mix there, whether if it's product promotion and storytelling, because sometimes you can combine the two as well. Kind of be it with the mortgage example, and closing on a house. That's you being the product, or your organization being the product, and also the storytelling piece there as well. And also just the different kinds of content. Video works really well. You see video across all platforms, and with coming months and whatnot, these platforms are trying to work on ways to include video, or put video as top of mind for their users. Emailing and newsletter, this kind of goes into just the overall content ecosystem, and wanting to make sure that you're hitting as much as you can, hitting as much of these as you can. And then lastly, with Facebook and, with images specifically, so not just having posts where it's just copy, but including an image, you can see, a rise of over 2%, or sorry, two times of what you would usually see if you just had original copy. And Scott, you may have something you want to add to this, especially coming from the world of content and everything.
Yeah, and I think the biggest piece that we've started to see a lot of success in from our customers, and even looking back at direct experience, is when you start tying these content types together. I think all too often we see some of these stats and are like, okay, everybody, video, that's it, right? We're just doing videos. We're taking all resources and moving straight to video. And we're not creating any other content types, no other channels, no other mediums, because that's what, the stats tell us. But it's always part of the interaction between those things, right? Why are customers looking for video? Well, it gives some level of authenticity. I know who I'm talking to. I'm getting information without having to do a lot of work. But I may want to dig deeper after that video. You can only cram so much into that. So how do we then translate that into something that is written, right? It is blogs so low because people don't like them, or is it because we feel like we're getting enough and we just need more quality of the written content that's coming out? And then I love the email newsletter sitting there where we can utilize the social posts again to stimulate that engagement, spark that relationship, and then drive that conversation from a leased channel to an owned channel, and continue the conversation both through the social channels as well as through their inbox, and continue to migrate that relationship to something closer. So when they are ready to make that decision, they know who to go to. I think rarely are you going to, through content, and I'd love to get your perspective on this, right? Stimulate someone to say, well, I wasn't going to, but I read a Facebook post and now I'm going to sell my house, right? It doesn't usually translate that way. It's more of, I'm ready to sell my house. Whom should I be working with? And you want to be that person who's top of mind, that they've seen, that they feel like they know. Similar with personal banking, similar with business banking. That individual or that organization seems to really understand what's happening in my industry. They seem like good people. Those are two key things that you can showcase through these social channels. And you can do it through all of the different content mediums that are being shown here.
Definitely. And yeah, that's why it is important to make sure that you are highlighting your content, because people will post. And if you're able to be top of mind, then it just increases your opportunities to really kind of, close on that person and move forward. So next up, looking at, just the power of social selling. And that is something that is still relevant during the holidays. And it may come across as a bit difficult to do during the holidays, because while we did say you want to make sure that, you're not always selling to people, it is still an opportunity to do so. So this is where you can get, your organization involved. And, it also gives you the opportunity to increase your brand visibility. It definitely can drive more leads. It can boost your web traffic to your site. And it also creates a wider net for user-generated content. And lastly, it really just shows cohesion across your organization. It looks like everybody's, it kind of gives that message of, we're a team, and, we're doing this on social together. And it just comes across as, very, tightened up, like, oh, they're moving all at the same time, in a line, and they're all in alignment. So yeah, that's kind of just the brief piece that I have wanted to touch on when it comes to social selling. Scott, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to add.
I think, and we touched on this a bit, but just to reinforce it here, I think, again, as you said, social selling is not something you just kind of throw to the wayside for Q4 because, hey, it's the holidays and we don't want to, offend anyone by telling them that we're still selling. I don't think that's the right path, but I think if you look at it from a KPI standpoint and you want to change that view to make people on the team a bit more comfortable about being active during the holiday season, really focus those KPIs on relationships that have now been garnered that you didn't have, conversations that have been started. As you said, some of those conversations may be with very stimulated individuals who are ready to act now. They need to act now. This is the time to do it. Others of those conversations may bleed into Q1, but utilizing this time and some of the kind of scatteredness that we all have in the holidays to spark new conversations, start those dialogues, and then use those relationships to meet this year's goals and then certainly get a great start to next year.
Definitely. All right. And then, yeah, just, crafting the right holiday message. So this one's big here, and specifically with omni-channel approach and also personalizing customer experiences, because, for instance, a bank, and in this example, you can get a lot here because you are embedded in your community. These people, their moms, their uncles, their pets and whatnot. So this really gives you an opportunity to, just become even more of a brand that's been, humanized and whatnot. And also just take pride in your community and the business that you do. The same experience that you have or that you provide to people when they walk into your location, you want to make sure that that experience is reciprocated across, your digital experiences and your digital footprint. So, you can be more personalized because your customers. You just know all of these people, and I think that that is something that oftentimes can be overlooked when it comes to social. Social should almost be seen as an extension of your brand and not necessarily an afterthought. Because those same experiences, again, that you're providing in person, they need to be provided across your digital platforms.
Yep, I think that you said it very well. And I think the part that maybe we didn't emphasize as much until you got to this slide, which makes a lot of sense, is that community aspect and really tapping into what your team is already doing and really building that relationship with your team to say, hey, if you go to that, pageant, you go to that concert, you go to that event in town, and you have some great photos, please, don't only just share them on your own network. We'd love to see those as well so that we can showcase what our employees, what our team members are doing for the holidays. And that's a great way to get content that aligns with the holidays, still showcases what your organization's all about, and does it in a way that helps others and your internal team feel great about working with your organization.
Right. And then lastly, when it comes to the right holiday messaging, is make sure you're listening to, what people are saying. So, utilizing social listening is really key. You can hear what people are saying, their thoughts and, or, how they're feeling, and it gives you an opportunity to jump in, be it if you're adding value or if it's just, some specific insight, or if you're just jumping into a conversation, you want to make sure that you're doing it respectfully, but just making sure that, you're kind of keeping a pulse on what people are saying on social media is very key. So this methodology was really kind of taken from, the UpContent world. And Scott, I'm sure you have quite a bit to add to this, but, just looking at discovering content, making sure you're distributing it across the, right channels and, converting. Is there anything that, you can kind of add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think historically, when we think about using third-party articles, we always or almost always think about using it to find articles that are kind of quasi replacing what we would have written ourselves. And that becomes really troublesome and challenging because oftentimes what we would write is our own unique perspective on an industry trend or a current challenge or a problem that our clients are having. And so trying to replace that with third-party content becomes a difficult challenge. So where we've seen curated content best fit in is not trying to duplicate what you would have written, but find those articles that are reinforcing some of those key concepts or a ripple out, right? So if we're in the mortgage area, some of the great blend between holiday and still related to our organization are, home renovations that people are doing to get ready for the holidays, putting in new wings or getting new tables or fixing the windows up before the grandparents come over. A lot of the repainting a wall. What are those things that we should be doing to get ready for family descending on our homes in the upcoming months? Those are great articles that not only are easy to engage with, I don't feel like I'm being sold in that article, but it makes the connection as to why you're the person who's sharing that with me. Similar to all of those great community articles. So if we take a step outside of those ripples from our main services, what are the things that are happening in our community for the holidays? Hey, this pop-up bar just opened up, or Santa's coming on this day, or we're having this, event of lights happening 2 weeks from now. Getting those out on your own channels and then getting those out to the team so that you're providing them a service to showcase themselves as part of the community is critical. And I think all too often do we kind of stay a little bit myopic in I'm just using it to find stuff to replace what I would have written, where we can see the most success when we ripple out in the industry and ripple out into the lifestyle side. That's important. With the goal, as you've put here, conversion, right? And conversion can mean starting that conversation or getting new connections, developing those relationships. And then it's up to us as organizations to continue those conversations now that we've stimulated them through sharing continued valuable content. We can't be this like great community citizen for 60 days out of the year. And then January comes and we're all about closing those loans, right? And that's it. So use this as a way to, if you haven't been doing historically, to now start that process. This is a great time to start doing that. And if you have been doing it historically, this is a great way to test some of those new theories around what that mix should look like. Maybe I want to overweight some of the lifestyle stuff because of the holidays, see how that performs, make sure that we're still connecting that to what we're all about, who we want to serve and how we want to serve them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I appreciate your insight on that one, Scott. I couldn't have said that one any better myself. So moving on to user-generated content, it's basically a really good opportunity to get more out of your customers on social. I'll use a really brief example. So in a previous role, it was in the consumer packaged goods industry. We wanted to come up with a New Year's resolution campaign, and basically we sold a line of gluten-free and grain-free products. So instead of asking people what their New Year's resolution would be, I came up with the idea to ask them what they wanted to be free from, whether if it was free from negativity or whatever, and whatever they wanted to align with. And we had gotten stickers printed, and basically anyone who asked, we sent them the stickers, they got to write it in, and we shared it on social media. So that was just a really good way for us to, generate user-generated content, and also engage with people in different ways, and also, give them a sense of accountability as well for the year moving forward. So, some of the benefits of user-generated content is it gives you credibility as a thought leader. It boosts your social media metrics. It allows you to, support lead generation, and it also extends your reach because people are going to be sharing with their own social communities, which may be people who are interested in your brand. They just hadn't heard of it yet. So I think leveraging user-generated content is very important. You want to make sure that you're telling them what to do. A lot of times people may not be sure, what type of content they should be sharing on social, but, if you kind of get the wheel going with them, then they will engage with you. So yeah, and Scott, I'm sure you'll have, quite a few things you want to add on to user-generated content as well.
I think the biggest thing is, and this still also always depends around organizational culture and things of that nature, but your employees are already often authentically sharing things that matter to them on their different channels. And I think you touched on this here, but just to kind of reinforce it, the more that you feel as an organization, without being, the overlord, can identify things that people are sharing that are worth amplification, is a great way to get user-generated content without kind of sending out that message of like, hey, everybody, it's snowing, go out and take a picture of your mailbox, right? And then you get 50 mailbox pictures coming in, and it feels a little unauthentic, right? If that's even a word. But hey, I'm already at this, I went out with my kids and we went and saw the Nutcracker. And so I took a picture and put that on Facebook. If the organization said, oh, wow, that's great. Can I, would it be all right if we use that and showcase, what our team's doing for the holidays? That not only makes them feel good, makes their audience feel good, and makes the company's audience grow because of it as well.
Definitely. So yeah, with kind of looking at, bringing everything all together, and, holiday posting and content tips. Just some examples here. So, for user-generated content, you can ask people to vote, kind of, we said this earlier, but on their favorite holiday side dishes, you can add a poll. You can also highlight your organization and community. So this kind of goes into, showing what your brand or, your organization believes in, and, showcasing that on your digital channels. And also, focusing on giving back, because it is a season of giving. So, if that is something that you really take pride in, don't be afraid to showcase that. And again, this is applicable on all social platforms. There's not a wrong answer when it comes to, user-generated content and where you should be posting it versus where you shouldn't be posting it. And then, lastly is just, a hashtags calendar. So, a quick Google search of, there's almost like a, National Pizza Day or, National Bank Day or whatever it may be, there's a hashtag for every single day. So a Google search, of a hashtag calendar or something like that can go a really long way and also help inspire a lot of content that you should be producing on your social channels.
Yeah, I love that you said the last part about using the hashtags to inspire versus just to say like, okay, here are the hashtags. We are all about pizza day and hot dog day and avocado day and guacamole day and all of these things. It's going to make up stuff for all of those posts, and you gave some great examples here. Find those hashtags that make sense. Like, oh, we've always ordered pizza for the team on Friday, so that's something that makes sense for us to then do, pizza day and talk about that and connect that hashtag back with the brand. Versus just, again, trying to fill up your calendar with a hashtag for every day.
Definitely. And then, so on top of all of this, we will be sharing, some tips when it comes to holiday content and posting. So we will be sharing that as it helps in an article for those of you who did attend this webinar as a follow-up, just to kind of help you get on the right foot when it comes to your, social media posting when it comes to the holidays. But yeah, that is all what we have for today. I do want to open it up for questions if there are any. And Scott, again, I just want to thank you for your time with this today. It was really wonderful having you. But we do want to open it up to questions. So if there are any, I'll give a couple of seconds or minutes in the chat and the Q&A so we can address that. Yep.
Hey, so I have a few questions that came in, but I also want to reiterate the Help Center article that's going to be posted. It's got all these examples times 5, 10 that you see here on the screen. So some really great ideas that you can utilize and actually try to put into your own schedule as you look to your November and December months. So we try to make it really easy for you guys to start to build out your holiday calendar on social. So make sure you take a look at that after we send it out. Okay, let's see here. What do I got? So one of the questions that was sent in, are there any examples of campaigns for the holidays that you've seen be successful in the past?
Oh man, yeah, there's a ton. Starbucks one year did one where they had people decorate it was like the red cup that they do. I'm trying to think of a example relevant to finance industries, but I can't think any off the top of my head. Also, another one was so hotels.com. They had done one where they had asked people the worst horror stories that they had was staying with their parents for the holidays. And it was
That's
to
a good
drive
one.
people. Yeah, so it was to drive people to stay with them with hotels during the holidays. God, I mean, there's always quite a few, but those are the ones that come kind of top of mind. Scott, I don't know if you had any specific examples.
Yeah, I'm trying to think through some. I mean, I think the one that just always sticks out in my mind is all of the kind of giving thanks type for more of the B2B or kind of financial services where they are either thanking specific individuals for things that they've done together or showcasing some of the community activities that the individuals are doing. I mean, historically, we've always seen, right, the whole team goes out and does a certain community activity. I think what we've seen over the last year or so is that they're showcasing the individual passions of different team members. And I think that actually sparks more discussions and dialogues because it's, giving you multiple touch points. So I think that's been a great way to tie the people to the holiday and back to the organization.
Definitely.
Awesome. Cool. So if we think of more, we can send those out as well.
Yeah.
We've got another question in the chat. What's your opinion on sharing organic photos of people on brand Instagram pages versus only sharing graphics created by designers? I love that question.
I think sharing organic photos and photos of people, I would almost agree with kind of erring on that side a bit more. Because, for instance, I'll use a bank example here, but if you're working at a bank and you're posting images of people and whatnot, it kind of helps break that fourth wall, and that's a term that's relevant in film, but I think it's applicable in social media as well. As it just helps kind of bring to the top of mind that people do go to this location. These are real people that I'm interacting with, versus always having something that's, teed up and always made to look pretty. It gives you an opportunity for, the kind of just things happening on the fly and, spontaneity in a sense. So, snapping a quick photo with someone. I personally love seeing a lot more, photos of people and whatnot, because it just helps generate conversation and everything again, versus, always, just an account with a ton of teed up graphics.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And so it would reinforce everything you said. I think the big piece is always, what is that stylized, designed photo really telling the audience? Is it telling them anything new about the organization? I think certainly for your promotional activities, you do want to spend that little extra effort making those graphics look great, easy to understand, feels professional. I feel confident taking action on that promotion. But as you said, Marquise, being able to see people who I'm going to be working with and what they are and what they're doing, it helps to build that relationship with those individuals. And it has that bit of pattern interrupt where like, oh, I didn't expect a bank to be sharing those pictures. What are these guys all about? Let me click in and learn more about this organization that I just thought was just another kind of nameless bank in my community. Actually, they're a lot more than that. Maybe I should consider a deeper relationship with them.
Definitely.
Love that. I think this is going to be the last question because we have 2 minutes left. Is it best to post on the actual holiday, or should you do it before to get the best engagement?
I kind of went back and forth with this one, just even in my own career. So I post prior to the holiday. If you're going to post on the holiday, then it can just be like happy holidays, or like happy holidays from us and our team. I don't think it needs to be this drawn out type of content piece, because a lot of people are already going to be doing that. They're with their families and whatnot, or they're already going to be posting. So if you're not going to post on the holiday, and also this gives you an opportunity to take a break from social media, so maybe post before. If you're gonna decide between the two, I'll probably post before rather than always posting on the holiday. But if you're going to post on the holiday, then I keep it very light. Yeah,
I agree. I think the holiday itself, it tends to be, just as we all know, just jam-packed with everything else in our world is happening.
Yep.
Right before the holiday, it is also probably still a stressful time. So I would agree. I think of those two, probably posting before, because you may still get some engagement from the thumb exercise as people are trying to unwind after the holiday's over.
Yeah.
But especially after the holiday. So scheduling those posts, for the few days after, where work and conversation tends to be light, family's probably gone, carpet's vacuumed. What's going to happen? What am I doing next week? To give them some of that breathing room to then look at some of the content that you're posting. And it lets you, again, hopefully share some content coming through, maybe from the team about how they experience the holiday, and that you'll have some really relevant content as part of those posts, but also then you can start bringing the business content back into play again, as well as you ramp up into January.
Definitely. And yes, Jill, you are 100% right. You can schedule it.
In fact, you should schedule it.
Yes.
Use Denim Social scheduling tools to
that
schedule
is
it for
true.
the holidays.
Like Denim.
So yes, use Denim Social scheduling tools so that your compliance person doesn't have to get into the tool and approve it for the actual holiday. So make sure you're planning ahead. Love it. All right, you guys, it's 1 o'clock. If you have any more questions, feel free to email me or any of the panelists, or support@denimsocial.com. We'll be sending out this deck after the call, along with the article. I think you're going to want to see the article. It's really great, full of super helpful info that you can put into action right away. And I think that about wraps it up. Marquise, Scott, thank you guys so much for joining us for this session. Some awesome expert information. And I took away some good one-liners. Scott, the thumb exercising, that's a new one. Haven't heard that one. Love it.
Perfect. That's it. So that's all I needed to give it in terms of value.
Thumb exercises when you're trying to get away from your family.
Yes. I didn't say that. This is
no, you didn't. I just implied it. All right.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Marquise. Thanks, Taylor.
Thanks everybody.
Thank you.